This video is for steps 5 through 10, centering your first line and adding your name and contact information for the resume using Microsoft Word. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull this up. Step 5 says that on the blank document we're going to center the text, and that's here on the home ribbon. So let's go ahead and open that up. And this is the home ribbon. All these buttons are the ribbon, and this just means it's on the home tab. And we're going to center the text. So that's this button right here. And you can see that these lines are lined up, centered on each other. Everything goes basically down through the middle, and everything is centered through the middle. And that was the first step. Alright, so number 6. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick a font. So in my picture I have Times New Roman. These are the top 5 fonts that are good for resumes, and each one of these is in the same size and is written in its own font. So this is what Times New Roman looks like, this is what Arial looks like, Verdana, etc. You can see that Cambria is a little bit smaller than Arial, and Book Antigua is a little bit smaller than Verdana and Arial, about the same size as Times New Roman. Cambria is a little bit less plain than Arial and not quite as fancy as Times New Roman, but it's just personal preference, whichever one you like. Alright, so what we're going to go ahead and do is on your blank document, still on the Home tab, this is where you set your font. And Calibri is currently the default for Microsoft Word on my computer. Your default might be different, but yours also might be Calibri. So it doesn't say font, it's just the last font or the default font. That's the name that's going to show up there. But when you click on this arrow, all of the different fonts will show up. Now this is the different themes for this particular default. This is the list of recently used fonts, and then alphabetically there's every font. Most of them will be written in their own font, so you can see Aharoni. This is what Aharoni will look like. Algerian, you can see that this is what Algerian would look like. This would not be a good font for a resume. It's not easy to read, but I'm just showing you that you can take a look down the list and see what your font will look like if you select that one. So I am going to go ahead and just do Arial because it's up here under my recently used fonts. Alright, let's go back to the instructions. So we've set our font. I wound up choosing Arial. Step number 7, we're going to change the size of the font, and then we're going to make it bold. Alright, so just click over here next to the font name is the font size. You can just click on the arrow. We're going to make it 12-point font. And we're going to make it bold by coming over here to the B and just left clicking on it. And you can tell that it's selected because now when I move my arrow away, it has that shadow around it. So that tells you that bold is selected. If it were not selected, then you move your arrow away and there's no shadow around it. But we do want it selected, so I'll go ahead and click on it. Alright, and that's it for that step. So now the next step is we're going to just type your name and then press enter. Then we're going to change it on that line from 14 to 12, and we're going to turn off bold. And then we'll do the phone number, add a few spaces, add your email address, and then press enter. And that will be the end of these steps. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so we are now, once again, bold. I forgot to change that to 14. So now we're at 14 because we want your name to be bigger and really stand out. If you use your middle initial, do go ahead and add that period after it. And then the instructions in the lab say hit enter. That just brings you to the next line down. Now right now, because we haven't changed anything, this next line would still be at 14 point and would still be bold. We're going to change that back to 12, and we're going to unbold this line. Because we want your name to stand out, we don't need your phone number or your email address to stand out. Alright, so let's go ahead and do the phone number. You have a choice. You can either do this format, okay, or you can do this, That's an acceptable way of doing it. A little bit less common, but you can still do it, is you can use periods there. I really don't recommend this one. I would recommend going with either the first one, and I'm just hitting the undo button right now to put those back. I would either go with this one or putting that way. Usually I do this, but it's your choice. All right, so then at the end of it, we're going to hit the space bar 3 times. And now we're going to enter an email address. This would be your email address. I'm just making one up. All right, and then you can hit space and that'll give it the familiar blue with the underline. All right, a lot of people used to add addresses and they're moving away from that these days. And the reason is because a lot of people are applying to jobs from out of the area. And if the company sees your address and it's an out of state or an out of town address, they might be less likely to give you the interview. And it's really not necessary. You know, the people that you are applying to don't need to know your address. If you are applying to a job in San Diego and you live near San Diego and you think that that will give you a better chance of being selected, then you can do something like this, another 3 spaces, and then you can just write San Diego, California. But again, you only include the information that will help you get the job, never include information that will prevent you from getting an interview. So if you have let's say you live in Hemet and you are applying to a San Diego job, it doesn't help you to put Hemet because they might decide ahead of time that the drive is too long for you and they might not interview you because of that. You want the ability to decide for yourself whether or not you want the job after they offer it to you. But don't include information that might prevent you from getting the interview. And you can see that we still want to have this centered, and these spaces just give you enough room between these pieces so that people can see that the phone number is different from the email address, is different from the location. And then we just hit enter one more time, and that's the end of step 10.